This video is sponsored by EnergySage. Visit the link in the description to find local, verified solar and heat pump experts in your area, as well as local community solar projects you can join. If you're watching this video as it goes live, the chances are you're watching it just before the summer solstice here in the Northern Hemisphere, aka the longest day. After that, it's downhill all the way to winter, the days get shorter, well, you know the rest. But to celebrate the arrival of the summer solstice here on the channel this year, we decided to do something a little bit different. Kate, Walton, Elliot and I are both sharing our experiences from our own pocketbooks, installing and using photovoltaic solar panels on the roof of our home. Earlier this week, Kate gave you her verdict of her solar panel installation and reported how it's been in the few years that she's had it. And today, it's my turn. If you watched Kate's video earlier this week, you will probably know that her solar panel installation is fairly conventional. Her house is not massive, and she put a reasonable amount of solar panels on the roof of her home because her energy needs are nowhere near as large as mine. Why are my solar energy needs so massive? That's simple. We run a YouTube channel from this house. For those who don't know, my house has a total area of about 2,000 square foot. And right now, it's just my wife and I who live here, plus the dogs, of course. When we bought the house, we had a teenager who still lived at home and we didn't know how long she would stick around. She now lives on her own in a different part of town, so we don't have to worry about providing her accommodation. And when COVID hit, we made the decision to move all of our production gear from a studio that we were paying a large amount of money to not actually be able to safely use to this house. And we split upstairs roughly in two. So I've got my bedroom upstairs, obviously, the master bedroom, the guest bathroom, but then the rest of upstairs is pretty much devoted to work life. My wife has her own studio, which used to be our daughter's bedroom. I have an edit room where I and our DP edit videos and produce them. And then the whole front half of the house here is pretty much devoted to our recording studio and our server room. Now, the server room, when we bought the house, was intended to just be a place where we would put our home automation server and our media server. We now have a full height rack mount server in there. It has its own air conditioning and there are massive numbers of servers in there. We produce a lot of videos and we have a lot of disk storage, like well over 0.5 petabyte. In fact, if you added all of the storage for all of the servers in that server closet, we would actually be over 1 petabyte. That means energy hungry use. And while we do turn the servers off at nighttime and weekends, it still gobbles up electrons pretty quickly. That said, it's still cheaper doing it this way than it would be for us to still rent a space downtown and then have 2 electricity bills. So in late 2020, after we'd had a couple of months of massively increased electricity bills caused by all of that extra power consumption, my wife and I sat down and decided that, hey, maybe we should put solar panels on the roof of the home. It's something we've wanted to do for as long as we've been together, but we were finally in a position to be able to make it happen. And combined with some really good low interest remortgage offers, we were actually able to remortgage our home and take out a solar loan and still have the total amount less than what we were previously paying for the mortgage alone for this house. So if you look at the maths that way, we effectively got free solar panels based on the fact that our initial mortgage had such high an interest rate when compared to the remortgage rate we were able to pick up in late 2020. I'm going to talk about the finances in a moment, but I do want to let you know about the process of installing the panels. Maybe it's time to chat to our video sponsor, EnergySage. EnergySage is an online service in the US that helps homeowners connect with local, verified solar and energy storage installers who really know their stuff and can help you navigate the process of installing your own photovoltaic solar system, with or without a battery backup solution. We used EnergySage when we were looking for installers willing to help us put solar panels on the roof of our home, and our EnergySage verified installers were professional, knowledgeable, and put us in touch with an amazing credit union that allowed us to finance our solar panels for as low a monthly payment as possible. So if you are in the US and you'd like to take advantage of the years of expertise that EnergySage verified installers have, why not follow the link below to sign up for EnergySage's free, no obligation service and start your journey today. If you do choose to use an EnergySage installer for your energy storage or solar project, we will also get a small referral fee, so you'll be supporting the channel too. So we reached out to EnergySage and we went through the process as regular customers who didn't get any special treatment. And we got a couple of good quotes. One of them was for a 36 panel system using the REC panels that we've got here. They are actually designed for industrial operation rather than residential operation. They're slightly more expensive. They have a 25-year warranty period, which is why we decided to go with them rather than slightly smaller, slightly cheaper, without the silver banding around them panels, which apparently is what most people put on the roof. Apparently residential customers don't like this silver banding. I think it's kind of cool, so I'm more interested in how much energy we can generate than how it looks on the roof. And because we're out in the country, we don't have to worry about an HOA or any busybody telling us that our roof doesn't look quite right. So our initial quotes were for 36 panels, and that would have given us about 16 kilowatt peak. Unfortunately, in order to comply with local fire code, we had to drop the number of panels to 34. This is because under local law, if you have a roof that you can step out of from a floor above, you have to be able to safely exit the house as a fire route. And putting solar panels all the way along that first level there would have caused us problems, and we would have been non-compliant with local law. So we did have to modify the plan a little bit there, but we ended up with 15 kilowatt peak. It's 15.02 kilowatt peak, I think. That kilowatt peak refers to theoretically how much energy the array can produce in ideal conditions on an ideal day with the sun in just the best possible location. But unlike Kate's home, which is located almost ideally for solar, this place isn't. North is kind of that way, so these panels get the sun from early morning until about middle of the afternoon in the winter, and at this time of year, if we're lucky, maybe until about 4 p.m. That's not ideal, but we also have massively tall trees all around us. There's one off camera that my wife has nicknamed Ancestor, and let me just say, if Ancestor ever decides to fall, we won't have a house. The plot is a triangular plot, and it's basically bordered on 3 sides by trees. So our solar generating capacity is not ideal. And that is why we ended up going with Enphase IQ microinverters. Unlike Kate Walton-Elliott, who uses the Enphase IQ8, these are Enphase IQ7s because the IQ8s weren't in production when we put our array on. And what makes them special is, unlike a string inverter, where all of the power is combined on the roof and fed to an inverter somewhere in your home that then converts that DC power to AC power, the microinverters in the Enphase system sit behind each solar panel and convert the power from each panel to AC power, which is then fed down to a combiner box, in our case, that sits in our garage. And the benefit of that is that each individual panel can generate power independently of the rest. And that means if there is a part of your solar array that gets shade for some reason, maybe something flies over or there is a tree that's casting a shadow at a certain time of day, those panels can drop their power output without impacting the rest of the solar panels. If you have a string system, then then you start to lose efficiency. The whole system was commissioned in spring 2021. Now, since then, those panels behind me have generated 60 megawatt hours of electricity, which is phenomenal. 60 megawatt hours of electricity in, what, 4 years? That's pretty cool. And obviously the amount changes every year depending on weather. It's also worth noting that solar panels are a little bit like EV batteries. They tend to have a bit of a natural degradation early on in their life. They then stabilize and have a fairly consistent generation capability for most of their life, and at the end of their life they kind of fall off the cliff. So pulling the data from my solar system this morning, I generated 14.1 megawatt hours in 2022, 14 megawatt hours in 2023, and 13.7 megawatt hours in 2024. So far this year, I think we're about 7 megawatt hours. Now, you might look at that and go, yeah, that shows a gradual drop in your generation capability over the last few years. And you would be right. It does tally out to that. However, I want to bring your attention to the fact that it does vary from month to month. Last month, May, was the best generating May that we've ever had for solar out of the years that we've had the panels. So in 2022, we actually didn't generate a whole lot of electricity on our roof in May. And then this last month, we had the best May we've ever had. And that was just down to weather. Some months, obviously the winter months are the worst because the sun is in the sky for less time. We are more likely to have rain and snow and other things. But those figures that I gave you are reasonably consistent, especially if you consider, for example, in 2023, we had snow on the ground for like a good 2 or 3 weeks, and the solar panels were completely covered and not really producing any power at all. I'm going to come to our energy use in a bit because I think that's particularly interesting. But the panels have been really reliable. We haven't had any issue with them. They haven't been cleaned. I know that can also slowly affect your output if you have a layer of crud on your solar panels. We did look for quotes, but we found some local companies and they wanted a couple of $1,000s to clean our solar panels. And I don't know about you, but that seems like a lot of money. And because we have reasonably good access to our roof, at some point, I think I'm going to have a go at cleaning them myself. But right now, they're doing the job of generating a decent amount. So let's talk cost. So the cost to install this photovoltaic solar panel array was approximately $33,000 US. Now, I'm saying approximately because I was looking through our documents earlier on and I found quotes for the 36 panel system and I found quotes for an alternative 34 panel system, but I didn't actually find the quote that we actually went with. So based on the fact that the 36 panel system was the same and then I took 2 panels off, we're looking at about $33,000 US. We got a federal tax credit of about $7,000 towards the cost of that. And we also got an Energy Trust incentive from Energy Trust of Oregon for about $4,000 US. Because we run a business here as well as have it as our home, we got a slightly different deal to residential customers. It was slightly more favorable. That enabled us to save a little bit of money. The rest of the panels we financed ourselves. And as I noted earlier, we changed out our mortgage. So we bought the house in 2019. I think our original mortgage rate was probably about 2 or 3% higher than what we were able to remortgage to. And that difference in the remortgage enabled us to have the spare cash we needed to pay a monthly finance payment for the solar panels. So we ended up getting a 4.4% interest loan from a local credit union here in the Pacific Northwest. They have a special deal if you go with solar financing, and they have been amazing. We weren't customers of theirs before. The only thing we had to do was to join a local community solar group and be a membership of that. We are still members of that. We don't have to be, but it's just like a local community generation and campaigning group that keeps us in touch with what the legislature are doing both in Oregon and Washington, and that enabled us to get a really good low interest loan. As of the time of filming this, we have about $18,000 of outstanding loan on the house, and we're paying approximately $330 a month in financing for the panels. Now, bear in mind, our mortgage on its own was more than it now is with the mortgage and the solar loan. So we're still quids in, and by my calculation, in 2028, the solar panels will be paid off in the middle of 2028, which means we'll then actually start reaping the benefits quite dramatically. My truck will be paid off in 2028, and also our heat pumps will be paid off in 2028. So roll on 2028. As long as America is still a safe place for us to live, we intend to stay here and make this our retirement. If circumstances change and we have to move, we've done some rough back of the napkin math, and our house is still worth enough money that we'll be able to clear out both the heat pumps and the solar loan. And if I absolutely have to, sell the truck and then move on. But honestly, I like living here, and I don't have any desire to leave, other than, as I have mentioned and Kate said in her video, the political environment becomes one in which it's not safe for us to stay. Now I've talked to you about the loan part of installing solar panels, let's talk about the other part of a financial nature, and that is the cost of electricity. Now, as Kate alluded to in her video on her setup, she doesn't use a whole lot of electricity. We do here though, and it's because our setup is very, very different. As I noted, we have the servers here. They use between 1.5 and 2 kilowatts instantaneous power draw. They are running for between 12 and 15 hours a day. Obviously, they run during the daytime, so some of that energy is generated on the roof, but we also have EVs to charge. Now, I drive an EV, my wife drives an EV, everyone at Transport Evolved drives an EV, and when we are filming at the house, which we do quite regularly, I mean, this past month we've had a press car every single week. Those press cars have to be charged up, and then when people are coming here to film, everyone who comes here to film has to charge their car up. And we have a 320 amp supply here at the house. So not only do we have the 20 kilowatt Ford Charge Station Pro to charge my truck, we have the charging station there, which is capable of providing, I think, up to 12 kilowatts. That's the span charge unit. We then have the 2 juice boxes over there, which are combined able of drawing about 6 or 7 kilowatts, split between the 2 of them. And then up by our pump house, we have a level 1 EVSE, and then in the back of the garage, we have another 50 amp socket that, if we absolutely needed to, could provide a further 6 kilowatts of charging. So that's a lot of power. I once charged, I think, 7 EVs simultaneously at this house, and it was within the 320 amp limit of our supply, but there wasn't much wiggle room. So that's the first thing that contributes to our high electricity demand. You know, our DP drives here most days and charges up most days. That's a lot of electricity. We live out in the boonies, and so, you know, if we go to get a takeout or we go shopping, it's not just a quick trip down to the local village, it's a 20-30 minute round trip, and that uses a lot of electricity too. So, how much energy has the solar panels provided, and how much are we paying from the local utility? Well, when we had the solar panels installed, we were told our solar panels would meet about 49-50% of our energy needs, and I would say that's reasonably accurate. Obviously, during the summertime, we use a lot less energy from the grid, we generate more of it. And in the wintertime, it's the other way around. We are signed up for net metering, but Oregon's net metering program, or at least the local utility that we are using doesn't actually pay us back. We just have a credit system. So throughout the year, if we generate more energy than we use, we get a credit. We can offset in the winter months from our generation surplus in the summer. If we end the year with credits, we can either just wipe the slate clean and forget it, or we can offer to give those credits to someone in need who needs that extra electricity, that extra free electricity. So we don't actually get paid money back, we just get credits. It's a very complicated system and I could make an entire video on it, but I'm not going to. But what I am going to do is draw your attention to just how much electricity costs have gone up. So I've been looking at our electricity bill over the last 4 or 5 years, and interestingly, even though we are always adding more hard drives to our servers, even though we end up, adding more lights to the filming studio and improving our quality, all of that does bring with it increased electricity consumption. We are making energy saving measures elsewhere in our lives that has kept our net energy consumption pretty consistent. Of course, because December has the shortest day in it in the Northern Hemisphere and June has the longest day in it, it follows that December, January are the months where we consume the most electricity from the grid and generate the least solar, and June is the opposite. We generate the most solar and pull the least amount of power from the grid. And interestingly, despite us increasing our production equipment and adding more hard drives, which does increase the server room consumption, we do have pretty consistent energy use and have had through the last few years. But what has changed has the amount of money that we've been paying to our local electricity company. So most Junes, we generate the majority of the power that we use, and we pull in between 900 kilowatt hours and 1,000 kilowatt hours from the grid. The opposite is true in December, where we average between 4,400 kilowatt hours and like 4,600 kilowatt hours of power from the grid. But the amount of money that we've paid has dramatically changed. So in December 2020, we used 4,409 kilowatt hours, and we paid $572 in electricity costs that month. Compare that to December 2024, where we consumed almost an identical amount of electricity from the grid, and our electricity bill was $874. And that is only down to one thing: the amount of money per kilowatt hour that our utility charges us. If you live in the Portland area, you will know that the cost of electricity has absolutely skyrocketed in the last few years, and of course solar can help offset that. Of course, right now we're also paying for the solar panels, so we are hurting more because we're paying not only the loan amount for the solar panels, but we're also paying for electricity to pull in from the grid. But even in the worst months, we're still generating a substantial amount of electricity. So overall, I would say that our solar panels are saving us money long term, especially if you factor in what I said earlier about the mortgage and the fact that we remortgaged and the total cost is still lower than it was. So it was a good choice for us. Would I recommend a solar panel array this large? If you are in a financially stable position and you have the generating capabilities, go for it, especially if your local utility does a feed-in tariff or some other beneficial program that allows you to earn money by generating power. It's also a good bet if you, like us, work from home. Transport Evolved is based here. My wife also works for a company and she telecommutes, so she works from home most of the time. The only time she is not working from home is if she's at a client site, but even then we're still benefiting from that solar generation as we go. I should also finish by adding that unlike Kate, who has gas to help her heating during the winter, this house, even though we're in the middle of the country, is 100% electric. So we have electric heat pumps for our heating. We don't have any natural gas or any secondary heating. We don't have a log fire or a wood burning stove or anything like that. So we use electricity exclusively for our heating and our cooking, and also for our well. So we don't have mains water here. We have 2 well pumps, one to pump the water from the water table up to the surface and one to pump from the massive tank we have just under the surface of the ground to the house. So those 2 pumps need power. If the power goes out, we still need to be able to power them, and that, by the way, is one of the reasons why we opted to get the F-150 Lightning with the backup power system that it offers, because we still need to be able to get water from the ground even if there's been an earthquake or a power cut or whatever. So in addition to all of that and the septic system, we are completely reliant on electricity, so being able to generate our own is super important. Further down the road, I would love to replace the inverters we have here with upgraded ones. At some point in the next 10 years, we're going to need to replace that roof. And so at that point, it might be beneficial for us to replace those IQ7A inverters with the IQ8A or whatever else happens at the time, so we can do grid forming, so we can generate electricity even if the power is off. Because basically, even on a really, really high demand day, when the sun is shining and it's the middle of the day, we're generating far more power than we could possibly need. Thanks for joining us today, and if you've got thoughts, make sure you leave them in our Discord chat room, on our Patreon page down below, or you can reach out to us on Mastodon or Blue Sky. Thanks to the amazing list of people scrolling by on your screen right now. They're part of the massive community of supporters who make this channel possible, helping us through Patreon and YouTube, covering our bills, paying our team, and helping us to remain 100% independent. If you'd like to join them and see your name listed here, just follow the links below. We've got options available across a wide range of different price points, starting from $1.50 US a month. A massive welcome to our newest supporters: Roshilu, Lynn, Mogren, Yalafli, Abigail, Jason Hellman, Mike, Rastas, Jay, Jim Boyer, Trebor, Steffel HB, Calvin Klein, Albedardo Conessa, John Snyder, Scott Matheson, Mia Hartman, Philip Paul, Randolph Lee, Simon Cotell, Stephen Meadows, BGB Thauben, Kristen Ramison, James Holyroad, Robin Holston, MK Duffer, S.A. Gimpson, Chip Chandler, Jeff Harrop, Nye Mister, Robert Bettencourt, Jason Broder, Brian Newton, and Mark. To join the list and get your shout out, become a paid Patreon member for your moment of fame, and you can even gift membership to someone else. If you'd like to support us with a one-off donation, you'll also find links below to make Ko-fi and Bitcoin donations, and we even have an old-fashioned PO box you can reach us at for the time being, address listed below. You'll also find links to our swag store, and if you are someone who has to shop on Amazon, please consider using our affiliate link so we get the commission, not Jeff Bezos. So we can continue to focus on making our content even better and reduce burnout. We're a little freer with our release days this year, but plan on dropping new content every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday on the main channel, plus something on Sunday over on Transport Evolved Take 2. If you want more, the algorithm that hates us thinks you should be watching this video, but this one is one we think you should check out. Be awesome, be kind, be intentional, and don't forget to resist. Keep evolving!